Today we're making the world famous Kamberalis Squares with all these wonderful ingredients, butter and sweetened condensed milk and chocolate. Now this is the best square recipe ever. I'm told it originates with Terry, and my auntie used to bring these delicious 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 squares with her to various Kamberalis functions that I was privileged to attend. So what we have here is a cup of butter and a cup and a half of brown sugar, mixing this up to begin. Okay, now that that's done, we're going to add an egg and a little plop of vanilla and mix that in. Now that that's all nicely mixed together, the recipe says to mix together 2 cups of flour, a teaspoon of baking soda, and a teaspoon of salt. By the way, my friend Joanne Smith taught me a long time ago, you don't have to mix all these things together. It makes no difference. Just go ahead and live dangerously and dump them in the pan one right after the other. So that was the soda. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of sea salt. Now, why sea salt, you might say? Well, because it's trendy. It's trendy to add sea salt to your recipes and not just regular salt. So that's what I'm attempting to do here, while also serving as the cameraman. That isn't working, so let me just shut the camera off here and add those ingredients. So I have the soda and the sea salt in there and a little bit of the flour, and I add the flour slowly because if you put it in all at once, basically you end up with a big mess. So we'll slowly add the flour and mix. Now I forgot to mention this ingredient, some hand soap. Not to put into the batter, but to wash your hands, because the next step is to try to get 2.5 cups of old-fashioned oats, not the quick cooking type, the old-fashioned type. 2.5 cups of oats have to go into this mixture, and I don't know any other way to do it except by using these. Okay, before we get into hand mixing the oats into the batter here, we start something else on the stove with 2 tablespoons of butter, because there's never enough butter, a 12-ounce bag of Nestle's chunks, and by the way, I noticed there's only 11.5 ounces in the bag. That will have to do, as well as a can of sweetened condensed milk. We put this all together on the stove on low and begin to melt that all up. So here's what this looks like cooking on the stove, and you probably want to keep the heat down pretty low so that it doesn't burn, and you definitely want to steal a couple of pieces of chocolate to give yourself a little burst of energy. So this is what the oatmeal butter sugar mixture looks like, all mixed together. And what I'm going to do is spray a little bit of the Famous Pam on the bottom of this 13x9 pan. I prefer to use a glass pan if possible, because it seems to bake more evenly. And just to show you what this is looking like, ooh, yummy. Over here, and hey, there's no reason why I shouldn't get the oven started, warming up. And we're going to bake this at 350, so we'll get that going. So I forget if I said this, but I only take half of this mixture and I just basically press it onto the bottom of the pan. Okay, just a couple more ingredients we're going to add here. I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of our fancy sea salt and a little plop of vanilla. I always kind of overdo it on the vanilla. And a cup of chopped walnuts. By the way, this is my favorite kitchen device ever, my walnut chopper, and we'll add those and stir it all up. So here's the pan where I pressed in half of the cookie mixture, and now I'm going to just pour this whole thing over the top of it. Okay, now you're beginning to see why these things are so delicious and dangerous. Now you could eat this if you want, or you could have the famous Kamberalis Squares. Now once I finish just kind of putting this all in there, I'm going to add the rest of the cookie mixture on top. And this is a little hard to do, but it always comes out okay. You just kind of, pat it down into little pieces and press it over the top. I'll show you in a minute. So just to show you what that looks like, I just kind of grab a handful of the stuff and, mash it together into a thin patty-like and lay it over the top. It's not too fussy. It comes out okay. Okay, there you have it. Now I'm just going to plop this in the oven and 350 for 35 minutes. Okay, this is halfway done cooking now. Just to show you what it looks like. And, I have this habit of liking to turn the pan around halfway so everything cooks evenly. There we go. And there you have it, fresh out of the oven, 350 degrees, and I cooked this for about 33 minutes. And I'm going to cut into it now. Okay, and now you can see what these world-famous Kamberalis Squares look like when done. Yummy. And now I have a faithful taste tester. How are they, sir?
Delicious.
And Auntie, I'm going to make sure I save one for you this time. At least one, maybe a couple, for my Auntie Teresa.